Welcome to the 12 Report with Blessings Mosugu, and these are the headlines. Ahead of 2027 elections, APC moves to address mounting internal crisis as more defectors pour into their ranks nationwide. A Senate to hold briefing on U.S. strikes in Nigeria as members allege National Assembly was sidelined. The U.S. President Donald Trump tells Iran to negotiate nuclear deal or risk far worse attacks as war sheep moves in. And of course, we have our reporters stationed in different parts of the country and beyond. Victor Mbadike joins us from Lagos, while Sagir Ibrahim, Idong Joseph and Aisha Saliu joins us from Abuja. We also have Chinwe Ugele, who will be joining us live from Abia, while our senior international correspondent and anchor, Afia Hagan, will be joining from London. We've got the details in a moment. Let's start now in the Federal Capital Territory, Abuja, where the Senate has announced plans to hold a closed-door briefing on the United States airstrikes carried out in Sokoto State on the 25th of December, citing concerns over legislative oversight. This issue was raised during plenary in Abuja, where Senator Abdul Ningi, representing Bauchi Central, said the National Assembly was not consulted before the foreign military operation, arguing that such actions require legislative scrutiny. In response, the Senate President said arrangements had already been made for an executive briefing by security agencies, but the session was postponed following the suspension of legislative activities after the death of a serving senator. The airstrikes, conducted in coordination with Nigerian authorities, reportedly targeted camps linked to the Islamic State group, with officials confirming multiple casualties. Right now, News Central's National Assembly correspondent, Sagir Ibrahim, joins us for more update on this. Sagir, could you tell us, it's a whole lot going on since the lawmakers returned from the recess, and it feels like there's been a lot of bottled up emotions, and one of which would be the attack on the 25th of December. What is the latest update as of this morning? All right, definitely. We will circle back to Sagir Ibrahim, who will be giving us more updates on the national security concerns. But still staying at the National Assembly, the President, Bola Tinubu, has transmitted a request to the House of Representatives seeking approval to expand the number of federal high court justices by 20 and that of the Court of Appeal by 40 in a bid to strengthen their capacity and reduce the delay in the administration of justice. This followed 3 letters transmitted to the House and read by the Speaker, where the President requested the House to consider the Federal High Court Bill 2025, the Court of Appeal Bill 2026, and the passage of over 20 health bills. And away from that, governors elected on the platforms of the All Progressives Congress have endorsed the party's timetable and framework for nationwide congresses and its national convention ahead of the 2027 general elections. The endorsement followed a meeting of the Progressive Governors Forum with APC national leadership in Abuja. In a communique, the governors said the timetable aligns with the Independent National Electoral Commission's schedule and ongoing electoral reforms. They also agreed on a coordinated funding structure to ensure uniform congresses nationwide, including in non-APC states. The meeting also addressed recent defections to the party and internal crisis in some state chapters as the APC's National Working Committee intensifies consultations ahead of the party's national convention scheduled for March. And now joining us is public affairs analyst Kelechi Decker, who is at the moment live to give us an update. Kelechi, the APC is at a familiar point, and we've seen this with other ruling parties in Nigeria. Everybody joins the party, it becomes too big, it eventually implodes. Can the APC find a solution that would actually change that trajectory?
Thank you for this opportunity. Basically, it's a problem that has to do with human beings. Anywhere you have that kind of meeting of human beings, people with different views, trying to kind of play down their own individual, points of views to join that kind of a bigger organization. you are going to have that problem. APC will implode the same way PDP imploded. I mean, politics being a game of who gets what, when and how will still manifest. At the end of the day, there are so many people who are following the crowd, who are following the shepherd. And when the shepherd is taken care of, you'll find out that the flocks will, be looking for what's in it for them. So it is that inability to manage the flocks that will lead to that implosion is going to happen. When is what I can say for now.
So ahead of the March National Convention, what key outcomes should the public be expecting, especially with the insinuation that we're already in a one-party state?
Yeah, even in some of those countries that run one-party state, we still have political divisions within the one-party state. You had what happened in China recently, even in a system as strict and as so compartmentalized like the Chinese CCCP, they still had that kind of friction. It's going to happen. Yes, it's a one-party state, but there are strange bed fellowship. When you bring a lot of strange bed fellows within that kind of agglomeration, there's going to be interest aggregation, and that interest aggregation will lead to a lot of forces either trying to scuttle the real reason, the real value of the party, or try to take it to other ways. And don't forget the fact that in spite of the tag of one-party state, we still have some minor parties that are trying to rise up and give a push to the APC. It's going to be a very interesting event. We're all looking forward to it, but there's going to be a huge implosion because what they have, the pie on the table, is not going to be enough. It's not going to go round for everybody who is stretching their hand with their plates to get some cuts.
So we're still talking about the conversation around the one-party state, and this has been blamed largely on the APC. People have said that it came in as a party that would do things differently and be a bit more democratic than its predecessors, but nearly every governor has defected at this point. So how safe would you say democracy is today, looking at the trajectory of things and the current situation?
No, you can't call what we have in Nigeria now as democracy. Maybe we can say it's a kind of a pseudo-democracy, but you can't call it democracy because one thing is certain, that some of these governors are not defecting. I mean, when you look at the trajectory of some of these defections, you have to agree with the fact that there are something that we are not seeing. There are some forces behind it that nobody knows, but somehow, someday, maybe in the future, we'll know what really happened. But something is pushing them. Something is altering the political trajectory of this country, and you can't call that democracy. One can hazard a guess and lay a claim that democracy has been, has taken a kind of 10 years to 15 years backwards, because what we had, say, 15 years ago is far more, can be compared to a kind of a democratic setting than what we have presently. Nobody in his right senses and nobody with the right conscience can describe what we have presently as democracy.
All right, Kelechi Decker, public affairs analyst, thank you for your time with us on the news. And we would see what is left to assume, of all of these defections and whether or not people still largely believe that we are in a one-party system. Thank you once again for your time. All right, that said, we'll go now to News Central's correspondent Idong Joseph, who is live in Abuja to give us more update on the president seeking reps approval to expand the number of justices. Idong, now that this request has also been transmitted to the House of Reps, let me ask you what its reception has been like, whether there's a real chance that the president will actually have his desires met.
If you will know, it's possible that the president's request will have its chance, because currently, if you look at the existing legislation at the Federal High Court and the Court of Appeal, the number of justices are 70 in both sides. And so this request, looking at the reasons why the president made this request, saying that the workload on these justices are too much. I believe that it's lawmakers are going to support this, but it is not law yet until this bill has to go through several processes, like the first reading, which was the first president request, and it has to come again to the plenary for debate, for all lawmakers to debate. And those who do not see reason why these numbers should be increased will also make their points known. And at the end of the day, it's all will come to a voice vote in the House, where we'll see if it will be passed. And then it will move further to the committee stage, where several stakeholders will be called in to also give their input and give reasons, either in support or against this request. And just as I said, it is not done here. It is not going to be over here until it gets to the last stage, which is the third reading.
All right, Idong Joseph there from the Federal High Court giving us an update on Tinubu seeking the approval of representatives to expand the number of judges, and we would find out this time if the president's desires will be met. And we'll circle back again to News Central's National Assembly correspondent Sagir Ibrahim, who will be joining us to give us more updates on the situation at hand. Sagir, can you tell us, it's a whole lot going on since the lawmakers returned from the recess, and earlier I was trying to find out. I mean, it feels like there's a lot of bottled up emotions, and one of the primary conversation is the attacks in the north on the 25th of December. So what's the latest update that you have for us as of this morning?
Well, first of all, good afternoon, blessings. It was the point of order that was raised by Senator Abdul Ningi, representing Bauchi Central, with particular regards to the airstrike that had happened on Christmas Day in Sokoto State. Of course, he had called it a breach of sovereignty. He had described the airstrike as a serious breach of territorial integrity and, of course, a violation of Nigeria's territorial space. He went on, of course, to describe it, saying that the legislature were excluded. I mean, particularly lawmakers at the federal level who were expected to have been given some brief by the government, the executive particularly, to know what shape or form that these attacks were going to take. Of course, it is not to be heard that a foreign body, a foreign country would come into another sovereign nation to carry out an airstrike, and the National Assembly, the parliament of that nation, will not be informed, will not be aware, and will not have an understanding of what is expected as the outcome of such attacks. So he really was furious, and of course he said such issues should not stand, because the National Assembly is not a rubber stamp. The National Assembly is not a department of the executive arm of government, and as such demanded some explanation from the executive and of course from the service chief in order to get a clearer picture of what transpired before these airstrikes happened. Of course, the Senate President had acknowledged his concerns and said today during plenary it will be deliberated during an executive session because of the sensitivity of the matter. It's a security matter, blessings. It shouldn't be discussed in public. The words of the Senate President.
And we're looking forward to seeing how this turns out. Sagir Ibrahim there with the update on the national security concerns, as the House of Senate has put it. You're live with us on the 12 Report. We go on a short break, and when we come back, well, the federal government plans to deploy veterans to secure ungoverned spaces. We have the details of this and many more after the break. Stay with us. Many thanks for staying with us. Now, Ibada Elume Primary Healthcare Center in Sapele local government area of Delta State was closed in October 2024 after miscreants broke in, stealing staff valuables, and leaving workers fearful. The facility reopened following News Central's January 2025 report, now with upgraded security and improvements. Our correspondent, Austin Azu, is on site with the update. Austin, what changes have been made to this facility since the reporting that News Central did in January 2025?
Okay, let's see if I can get you correctly. You are referring us back to the report we did in 2025 that prompted the government to reopen these particular health facilities. Okay, from the visuals you can see on your screen, that tells you that this place is wearing a new look, and in the year 2024, October precisely, this place was shut down, and not only shut down, the health officers who are in these particular facilities left this place and they locked up this facility. This is an agrarian community in Sapele local government area of Delta State. Precisely, this is Ibadan Elume community. And not only that, you can equally see in time past that this place was filled with weeds, and not only weeds, one can find it very difficult to access this place. But glory to the reports we did in the year 2025 in February precisely, that prompted the government agency to reopen this place, and thereafter this place is bubbling up again, once again with patients. Of course, we have Mike here. We have Michael here to talk to us. He's a member of the community, and of course, he's equally from the district here. Okay, Michael, how are you doing? Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, I'm fine.
Okay, tell us, what exactly does this place look like in time past?
In time past, it's difficult for patients to come in, but now we are having more customers, and more students are coming to the health center here at Ibadan Elume community.
Okay, one, there were some persons who are responsible for this beautification you are seeing here today, and the health workers who are here. Who do you think is responsible?
The New Central, Africa, they're actually doing a great job here, because at the time when someone misrepresents the community, they lock up the place. They are the one who make sure that the place reopened, and today is functioning very well. So I want to say kudos to New Central Africa.
Thank you, Mr. Michael. Not only that, the New Central did what they know how to do best. This place is wearing a new look. You can see from the screen, we have panel solar, and we have street lights in this place. We have new buildings as well, and there's a perimeter fencing that can actually tell, for instance, that the insecurity they complain about has relatively been solved to a large extent. Okay, we have Wilson here. Wilson, you are a member of this community. Okay, tell us, how do you feel about what you have seen here so far?
In fact, I'm very happy. Initially, before now, this place wasn't so, but now this place is beautified now. I want to thank the New Central for their effort, because it was their prior coming to this place that actually brought the development to this community. I want to thank New Central so much. I want to thank the workers, the health workers, the matron, and the workers of this health center. They are really doing their best. Our patients, our mothers, our wives are praising them for their effort. Thank you very much.
Now, before I let you go, of course, you can see that the nurses behind me, they are wearing a new look, and not only that, because of the bureaucracy, because of the standard of civil service, none of them said I'll be able to speak to us. But however, what do you think are some of their challenges? Come forward. What do you think could be some of their challenges that they have told the communities?
I don't think if they have any challenges, but one of the challenges I know they are talking about is security. They say they want a better security, and they also want fan. If you watch this place now, this place is very hot. They need AC, they need chairs, and they need fan too. They also need table in this place.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Wilson. Of course, from what we have gathered so far, that Oliver Twist said ask for more, and the health workers here are asking for more conducive working environment for them to give their best to the people of Ibadan Elume and environs. So back to you in the studio.
All right, Austin Azu there on healthcare delivery in the region of Ibadan Elume. We move on now to more stories. Leaders of civil society organizations have convened for a high-level retreat to examine the impact of taxation on the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. Now, the retreat focusing on the new tax law and civil engagement, shaping the future of development, brought together tax experts, government representatives, and stakeholders to discuss how tax policies can accelerate or hinder sustainable development. Now, News Central's correspondent Aisha Saliu is on standby in Abuja to give us more of this. Aisha, how are the CSO leaders suggesting that the new tax law would support the achievement of UN SDG 2030?
Well, blessings all day. It's been a conversation about Nigeria's new tax reforms and new tax laws. As much as some stakeholders have said these tax laws are flawed and they should not be implemented, Nigeria should halt the implementation of these tax laws. But most of the civil society organization leaders here are canvassing and campaigning, support for the new tax laws, saying that the only way developmental strides can come to a nation is when the nation tax its citizens, and these taxes are paid promptly and they are traced to attend to the issues they are meant to attend to. And in line with how these taxes answer to the SDG 2030 goals, they have also highlighted that the SDG 17 agenda of the UN's SDG 2030 goals 3, 4, 9 and 16, which talk about health, education, infrastructure development, and also partnership on security. And they talked about the goal 10, which particularly talked about the reduction of inequality and social development. They are saying that the only way we can achieve this goal come 2030 is when Nigeria holds on to these tax laws. But then I have a CSO representative here who would talk about how they, as CSOs, would ensure that these taxes are tracked and it can bring the right development that is needed. Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon.
Yeah, I'd like to hear from you as a CSO representative. We're talking about the Nigeria's new tax laws now. How can the implementation of these tax laws bring the right development that we need in our country?
First of all, my name is Mr. Romanus Azubike, the Executive Director, Center for Strategy, Ethics and Value. And the importance of this new tax law is very, very great. Because why? It will increase the tax net in the country. Over the years, Nigeria have been doing their budget without meeting up the budget proposal. But with this new tax law, they will have enough money in their net, and they will have money to execute the most important SDG goal, like goal 4, the education, health, and so on and so forth. So, as a civil society, we are one of the major stakeholders in this game. Why? Because this...
All right, unfortunately, we lost connection there with Aisha and the guest she was speaking with, but she's still live covering the tax law implementation meeting that brings together tax experts to discuss how this would impact either positively or negatively the United Nations SDG 2030. But let's move on. Candidates for the 2026 West African Senior School Certificate Examination in Abia State could face challenges if schools lack sufficient computers and stable internet access for the computer-based test. Now, while some schools are actively preparing their students, others are unsure how to begin or even manage the process. And right now, our correspondent Chinwe Ugele joins us with the latest from Abia State regarding the WAEC and, examination preparedness of the schools. Chinwe, what are the main challenges the schools in Abia State are facing in terms of preparing for the CBT WAEC this year?
The lack of computers in most schools. We've been to students today, and we discovered that one of them is compared from 21 editions, they handed over schools. They hadn't used them once. The other didn't have computers. But then they had that their party exam to go with CBT down to set the reading to show city the state. But the people also turned out having heavy or cable internet services in the analysis realized that some of the schools are located in rural areas where have problems with internet services. I would say of progression there are lots of these are maintained secondary and technical and leave some local measure of they have the infrastructure of the
All right, unfortunately, we're unable to continue with Chinwe's live, but definitely we would circle back to find out what the development is. Now, the federal government has unveiled plans to deploy military veterans to help secure Nigeria's ungoverned spaces as part of efforts to boost national security and economic activities. The plan follows the inauguration of an 18-member committee by the Minister of Defense, General Christopher Musa, to reposition the Nigerian Legion and reclaim insecure areas. Represented by the Permanent Secretary, Richard Filangwa, Musa said veterans would complement ongoing military operations, especially in regions with weak state presence. Now, the Supreme Council for Sharia in Nigeria has renewed its demand for the immediate removal of a chairman of the Independent National Electoral Commission, Professor Joash Amukwito, citing concerns over his neutrality and past conduct. Now, speaking at the Council's 2026 annual pre-Ramadan lecture in Abuja, the president of the Council's Bashir Umar declared that the Muslim Ummah will not recognize any election conducted under the current leadership. Umar alleged that a legal brief previously authored by Amukwito, which claimed the existence of a Christian genocide in Nigeria, compromises his integrity as an unbiased electoral umpire.
The legal brief that he sent, which he made, in which he established the existence of a Christian genocide, which the federal government has categorically dismissed and said that there is no Christian genocide in Nigeria, puts him in direct conflict to what is the position of the nation. And his position will be an act that is unacceptable and has shown that he is clearly religiously biased, and as an umpire for the democratic practice of electing a democratic government, you need to have someone who is clearly unbiased, whose integrity is not compromised. Because of the compromise of his integrity, we feel that the honorable thing for him to do is to resign, and if not, the government should actually dismiss him or at least retire him.
The United States of America, they designated Nigeria as a country of particular concern due to some previous allegations that there is Christian genocide in the country. And you know very well that Nigeria is a secular state. But with this lecture, people will be guided so that we'll have a peaceful period, and then we'll have Nigeria that can work for all of us.
And now to some business stories. The Nigerian Communications Commission, NCC, says telecom network quality and service delivery improved across the country in the fourth quarter of 2025, according to its latest industry performance data. Presenting the report during a virtual media briefing, the Commission said the gains reflect its commitment to transparency, accountability, and evidence-based regulation. NCC spokesperson Mrs. Nena Ukoha noted that accurate and timely data helps strengthen consumer trust, investor confidence, and policy decisions. The regulator also highlighted its partnership with Okla and the continued publication of quarterly reports as key tools for tracking progress and holding operators accountable. And now the Bank of Ghana has cut its monetary policy rate by 250 basis points to 15.5%, citing stable inflation and sustained economic growth. The decision, announced after the Monetary Policy Committee meeting, follows an earlier 350 basis point cut in late 2025 as macroeconomic conditions improved. Governor Dr. Johnson Asiama said inflation remains within the central bank's target band and is expected to stay stable into 2026, supported by fiscal discipline and better supply conditions. He noted that real interest rates remain high, allowing further easing to support credit investment and private sector-led growth without threatening macroeconomic stability. South Africa's automotive industry has pushed back against proposals to raise import duties on new vehicles to as high as 50%, warning that such a move would be a shock to the system with unintended consequences. NAMSA president and BMW Group South Africa CEO Peter van Binsberg said the industry is not calling for maximum tariffs, but rather a fine-tuning of existing policy tools under the Automotive Production and Development Program. He cautioned that steep duties could hurt affordability for entry-level consumers and undermine market stability, arguing that policy reforms should instead focus on attracting more manufacturers and boosting genuine local production. And to stories outside of Nigeria, UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer has arrived in Beijing, marking the first visit by a British leader to China in 8 years. Starmer met Chinese President Xi Jinping at the Great Hall of the People, calling for a closer strategic partnership. He emphasized that engaging with China is a pragmatic choice and urged a mature approach to the relationship. The UK and China leaders discussed opportunities for collaboration while also addressing areas of disagreement.
Yes, we had a very good, productive session with real concrete outcomes, and it was a real strengthening of the relationship, and that's in the national interest because, of course, there are huge opportunities here in China. It's the second biggest economy in the world, and that's why we've got such a big business delegation. A lot of the discussion was about how we open up access for those opportunities, focusing, as I always do, on how is this going to be delivered back in the United Kingdom, how does it benefit people back at home. The relationship is in a good place, a strong place, and what I'd say to everybody here is that I always act in our national interest, and therefore the question for me is how does this accelerate and deliver back at home? I know that whatever's going on in the world, the most important thing to the vast majority of people is the cost of living. So opening up access to business, opportunities, seizing those opportunities, which then gets reflected in better businesses, in jobs, in price reductions. Well, we raised those issues as you would expect. Part of the rationale for engagement is to make sure that we can both seize the opportunities that are available, which is what we've done, but also have a mature discussion about issues that we disagree on. Well, the big issue, the big challenge here is to ensure that Iran doesn't get a nuclear program, and we're all absolutely agreed on that, and we're working with allies to that end, and that is the central focus of what I'm doing with our allies.
And President Trump's actions are the right ones?
Well, we all agree that ensuring that Iran doesn't get that nuclear program is a number one priority, and that's what we're working on.
And now for more on this, I'm joined by our senior international correspondent and anchor, Afia Hagan. Afia, Sir Keir Starmer says it's vital that the UK and China build a more sophisticated relationship. Why now? And what does sophisticated actually mean in diplomatic terms?
That phrase, sophisticated relationship, that Keir Starmer has used, that is diplomatic shorthand for a pragmatic agreement with no naivety. So everybody knows where everybody stands in this relationship. It's a real shift from the previous government's way that they have handled China. As we know, this is Sir Keir Starmer and any government's first visit to China in 8 years. The previous government didn't necessarily want to make friends with China, do any deals with China, have any trade with China, so to speak, because of various security concerns, like removing the company Huawei from our 5G network, and security concerns over Chinese spies operating in Britain. But this UK government under Sir Keir Starmer has decided to go in a different direction. We've heard this morning that British people should be able to go to China visa-free. So this is really a different approach by a government, and the timing of this is crucial. The UK is under severe economic pressure. You heard Sir Keir Starmer, the Prime Minister, talking about the cost of living crisis in that clip there. We're really struggling to boost growth, and China is the world's second largest economy, a really critical trading partner. So it makes sense for us to cozy up with China, to have a better relationship with them. Sir Keir Starmer is traveling with 50 British business leaders. So that tells you how important it is that we establish business ties with China at this time.
So this is the first visit by a British Prime Minister in 8 years. What does that tell us about how strained the UK and China relationships have been in the past?
the UK-China relationship has been under incredible strain since 2018, over these past 8 years. And that's why now it's such a big deal, actually, for Sir Keir Starmer to be in Beijing for this 3-day visit. And these concerns were over many things. It was China's crackdown in Hong Kong for the pro-democracy movement and the imposition of national security laws. There's been allegations of cybersecurity and cyber espionage on UK soil by Chinese operatives, and there was the UK's decision to ban Huawei from our 5G network. All these things really contributed to a strained relationship between Beijing and London. There's been mutual accusations on both sides. China have accused the UK of being a strategic risk also. And so that means there's been a real absence of high-level visits because of these reasons.
So Xi Jinping spoke of twists and turns in the relationship. What are those twists and turns, and who exactly bears the brunt of it?
Well, those twists and turns really refer to the issues that I've spoken of, the different ways in which both countries have tried to keep the other at arm's length because of the issues that I mentioned, because of cybersecurity concerns, because of the UK accusing China of cyber espionage. These are all the twists and turns I think that Xi Jinping was referring to. Who is to blame? Definitely both sides are to blame in this, absolutely.
Before we let you go, Afia, how much of this reset is driven by global uncertainty, particularly tensions with the US and a shifting world order as we know it?
Yeah, I mean, the world order that we're used to is rapidly shifting, it's changing every single day. It's really important for the United Kingdom to make sure we have trading partners that are not just the United States. You know, we did a huge deal with India last year. The EU have done a huge deal with India this week also. It's about trade deals, but it's also about having those strategic partnerships all around the world. So it really is important that the UK has these partnerships and maintains these partnerships. And I think perhaps, you know, in the previous world order, under a previous government, perhaps we wouldn't have had this state visit. We wouldn't have had this relationship with China. But I think this UK government, along with the shifting sands we have in this world order, mean that this relationship between the United Kingdom and China is now more important than ever.
All right, News Central's senior international correspondent and anchor there, Afia Hagen, with the update on Starmer in Beijing. Now, Sarah Mullally has been formally confirmed as Archbishop of Canterbury, becoming the first woman to hold the office in nearly 1,400 years. The ceremony at St. Paul's Cathedral highlighted the global nature of Anglicanism, with hymns and readings in multiple languages. Mullally, a former chief nursing officer for England, succeeds Justin Welby and now leads some 85 million Anglicans worldwide. A formal installation is set for March. You're still live with us on the news. We go on a short break, and when we come back, we've got more stories. Just stay with us. We're still staying on the foreign scene. U.S. President Donald Trump has warned Iran that time is running out to negotiate a deal on its nuclear program following the steady buildup of U.S. military forces in the Gulf. The U.S. president said a massive armada was moving quickly with great power, enthusiasm, and purpose towards Iran, referring to a large U.S. naval fleet. In response, Iran's Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi said the country's armed forces were ready with their fingers on the trigger to immediately and powerfully respond to any aggression. And now, Taiwo Hassan and Dele Frank, members of the organizing committee behind Wednesday's anti-demolition protest, are currently in the court, facing a 5-count charge. While awaiting the start of their hearing, the human rights activists claimed that they were subjected to torture while in police custody. And I'm sure that you remember that News Central has been giving an update on the alleged illegal demolition and people asking that, you know, they want justice for the dead and, of course, for their shops to be reopened. News Central's Victor Mbadike has been covering the story and is currently on standby to give us an update on the development. Victor, if you can hear me, what is the update now in court? Why are they facing these charges? what exactly are the charges leveled against them for protesting?
Blessings, I'm coming to you live here at Jabba from Jabba Magistrate Court. And just the continuation of what transpired yesterday, the chaotic scenes, there are still protesters camping for safety. In the course of that event, the police arrested 2 of the organizers, the person of Taiwo Hassan, popularly known as Soweto, and of course Dele Frank. 2 of them passed the night, according to them, I did speak to them a few minutes ago, they passed the night at Banti, where they slept and then brought into the courtroom this morning to answer for charges that we are here to hear in details, because as soon as this call is over, we will have to quickly rush back to the courtroom to get to hear the details of the court. So just behind me is court 3, so they are actually just upstairs, if you can see where my hand is. They are currently at court 2, where they would the court hearing would begin in NS in a few seconds from now. You must also know that Leonard Sen, I'm talking about Femi Falana, is representing the 2 organizers. I'm talking about Taiwo Hassan Soweto and Dele Frank. So blessings. Well, I did see them and I have to be honest, they don't look like the people I saw yesterday. They look manhandled, they look injured. I don't know what happened eventually, but Taiwo did say, Soweto did say that some policemen allegedly, attacked them while in the cell. I mean, just kept on punching them and all of that. And he had so many things to say, but I may not have to say all of those things now. Maybe after the entire proceeding in court, you get details. But right now, we are waiting for the magistrate to resume court hearing. And let's get to see what charges that the police actually filed against these 2 organizers. They are one of the 2 organizers of the protest yesterday after that chaotic scene of tear gas dispersing protesters at the State House of Assembly complex yesterday. Blessings.
All right, Victor Mbadike there with the update on the charges leveled against the activists who led a protest yesterday. And News Central is still very much on ground to give us the update on that as it unfolds. There's a menace that we don't talk about enough. In parts of Lagos and other low-income communities, a growing number of parents are skipping routine childhood immunizations. And it's not because they doubt the vaccines, but because of poverty, time pressure, and weak health systems that are making access a little bit more difficult by the day. Now, long clinic waits, transport costs, and missed work days are pushing families to postpone or completely abandon vaccination schedules. This story is not about ignorance, it's about survival choices, because for many parents, especially daily wage earners, going to a health center means losing income for the day. I mean, look at it this way, when you budget for a month, you want to leave according to the budget by the day. And when the choice is between feeding the family and sitting in a clinic queue for hours, healthcare becomes a luxury that they cannot afford. Now, many mothers describe making repeated trips to clinics only to be turned back because vaccines were unavailable or staff were overwhelmed. After 1 or 2 failed attempts, frustration sets in, of course. Each wasted visit reinforces the feeling that the system is not designed for them, so they actually stop trying. You see, the consequences extend beyond individual households. When children miss their immunizations, the risk of outbreaks increases. Diseases that were once under control find new opportunities to spread, and they almost always hit the poorest communities first and even the hardest. So what stands out is that most parents understand the importance of vaccines. The problem is not about awareness. The problem is about access. Public health cannot rely on determination alone. It requires clinics that are closer, services that are predictable, flexible hours, outreach that fits into the realities of working families. And let's not talk about the fact that some of these vaccinations should actually be free for these communities. Well, that's your postscript. Now, before we go, let's take a look at what's happening in the sporting world. The CAF Disciplinary Board has handed down heavy sanctions to Senegal and Morocco following incidents during the Africa Cup of Nations 2025 final. And Favor Itua is here with the latest. Favor, are you ready for us?
Yes, blessings. Finally, a lot of fans have been waiting for the verdict, and it has also come out. Lots of bans given to some of the players of both teams. Also, total amount of over $1 million to be paid by both federations. But we'll be talking about more during In the Game.
Most definitely. Well, you've heard it. Stay tuned on In the Games. And that's all from here on the 12 Report today. Send your eyewitness report to the WhatsApp number on the screen because we want to see what you see. Do also follow us on social media. We are at News Central TV. Now, you can watch News Central live on DSTV, channel 422, GoTV, channel 23, StarTimes 274, Avo TV, and of course, live on YouTube. Many thanks for watching. I'm Blessings Masugu.